Welcome back, boys and girls, and I can proudly tell you I have free floated the barrel myself, and I'm gonna hit the range again and try it 50 and 100 yards. In fact, just to make it more interesting, I'm gonna take my 300 blackout with me and then compete. Now, how I free floated this barrel myself, I will show it to you in the future video. Okay, as for the 300 blackout, the upper is by Live Free Armory and the lower is by DPMS, and I have Pro Staff Nikon scope. Only problem is that only has power 4. Now, I had a different scope on there that had power 9, which was actually a Bushnell that I put on my 22. It wouldn't hold 0, so I was having problem when I shot it last time. So I put a new scope on it. Well, not a new, but the scope that extra scope that I had on it. And as for the high point, I have Boris scope that's power from 2 to 7. So at 100 yards, I'm gonna shoot it with power 7, and at 50, I'm gonna shoot it at power 5. And I want to do one more comparison as a hunter. Now, this high point carbon, when you chamber it, it's actually a lot quieter than 300 blackout. And this is 300 blackout. As for the ammunitions, I'm gonna be using Bond's tip for 300 blackout. That's 110 grain, and that is copper bullet, and that comes out of barrel at 23.55 per second. And then for the 10 millimeter, I'm gonna be using 155 grain XTP, and that comes out of barrel at 1410 fifth a second. So they're both pretty capable. Now, even though this has a higher velocity, as for the deer hunting, I consider both of them within 100 yards hunting rounds because of the downrange energy. Okay, I'm going to be taking 3 shots at 50 yards with 300 blackout, middle upper target. It's shooting about an inch high, which I don't mind at all. I'm gonna keep it right there. Okay, I'm gonna be taking 3 shots at 50 yards with high point carbon, 10 millimeter. Same with the carbon, I'm shooting about a little bit more than an inch high, which I don't mind at all, so I'm gonna keep it where it is. Second shot with a 300 blackout, same middle upper target. Whew, that's tight. They're almost touching each other. I like it. Going for the second shot at 50 yards, right upper target. Wow, that's really tight. They're touching each other. I think free floating the barrel is helping so far. Keep my fingers crossed. Okay, I'm gonna be shooting my last shot at 50 yards, same middle upper target. I'm getting a little nervous. Whew! It's all touching each other. Okay, this is my last shot. First 2 shots is touching each other. I'm getting a little nervous. I think I pulled that one. Alright, I'm gonna give it one more chance. Yes, that's what I'm talking about. They are all touching. As you see it, when I first bought this rifle, shooting at 50 yards, I was getting about 1.5 inch groove, and I was happy with it. After free floating my barrel, I'm getting about a 1/2 inch groove. I am stoked. Okay, this is at 50 yards. Now this is with 300 blackout at 50 yards. Little high, but they're all touching each other, which is great. And this is a 10 millimeter high point carbon. First 2 shots, and I pull on the left. That's my fault. I took another shot, and perfect grouping. I love it. Okay, this is 300 blackout at 50 yards, and that's 10 millimeter. So if you measure the group with a 300 blackout, we're looking at just about 3¼ inch, which is very decent. But with a 10 millimeter, we're looking at actually less than a 3/4 inch. We're looking about 5/8 of an inch, so that's really great. Of course, I did free float the barrel, but 300 blackout and AR platform, that's also a free floating barrel. Okay, this is my target from my previous shooting before I free floated the barrel, and at 50 yards, I shot 1.5 inch. So by free floating it, I reduced it more than a half. Okay, we're back out the range today, and I'm gonna try 100 yards today, and we'll see what happens. Alright, I'll be taking 3 shots at 100 yards. This scope is only power 4, so this might get a little bit tricky. Take a look. Okay, I'm going to change the power, scope power from 5 to 7 because it gets a little bit small at 100 yards. Can't believe it, but it's a bullseye. Alright, second shot at 100 yards. Let's take a look, see. Not bad. Okay, second shot at 100 yards. Take a look. Can't believe it, but I think I got both in the bullseye. I have to go down and check, but wow. Here was a third shot. Let's see. Okay, I'm really nervous because I think I got both first two shots in the bullseye. I have to go down and check, but alright, here was the last shot. Okay, as you can see, I'm very nervous and I'm just kind of holding my breath way too long. And pulling this trigger, it really feels like shooting a heavy double action trigger. It just pulls forever. And then all of a sudden it goes bang. Alright, let's take a look. The last shot dropped. I know I was holding it off way too long. Let's take one more shot. Okay, let's give one more try because I know that last shot I was really nervous and I was holding my breath a little bit too long. So we'll see. That's what I'm talking about. Probably have about 1.5 at 100 yards. Okay, this is at 100 yards and I'm having a good day. So this is the 10 millimeter. That's my first two shot. And then that's my third shot. That was me. And then that's my fourth shot. So if you look at the distance here, 3 shot group, we're looking 1.5 inch. That's great. And that's the 300 blackout. If you measure, we're looking at about 1 3/4. Because they're stick-ons, I can't take it home with me. Okay, I was so happy with this target. I carefully peeled it off and brought it home with me. That was my first two shot, and I couldn't believe my eyes at 100 yards. And then I held my breath too long. I was shaky. I was really nervous, so I know that was my fault. So I took the fourth shot. So that's the fourth shot. So I'm gonna go with this 3 shot group here. And we're looking at actually less than 1.5 inches. So that's about 1.3 inches. So that's really, really great. I mean, I couldn't be happier. If I shot 1.3 at 75 yards, I'll be over the hills with it. But at 100 yards, you can't argue with that. This is what I shot at 100 yards before I free floated the barrel, which is 2.25 inches. After free floating my barrel, I was able to reduce my groove from 2.25 inch down to 1.3. That's awesome. Okay, this is 300 blackout at 100 yards. Now this proves that my scope was having a problem before because previously it dropped from 50 yards to 100 yards, it dropped about 1.5 inches, but it actually climbed up. This is normal. So at 100 yards, I shot just about just a little bit past 1.5 inches. So even though this was very decent shooting, believe it or not, 10 millimeter won the competition. But it was kind of unfair because this scope only had power 4, whereas the 10 millimeter, I put the power at 7. I just came back from the range, and I gotta tell you, I really like this rifle, but after free floating my barrel and shooting 1.3 inch 3 shot group at 100 yards, I am in love with this rifle. Okay, you be the judge which one you prefer. Now honestly, I can't really make up my mind yet, but after hunting with this 10 millimeter, I can really tell you which one I would prefer. And lastly, like always, thank God for what you have, enjoy life with what you got, but mostly remember, you don't have to pick one. You could have both of them. See you.